Number 15. Helvetii move west. The last thing you'd want in your northwestern Gaul provinces is a race of bloodthirsty Swiss people, but as it turns out, that might be what you get. The Helvetii sent their troops anonymously to Geneva, showcasing their troops closing in on Roman territory, with the statement, "These are the troops you get near your northern border." Admittedly, they had avoided the Ural Mountains, but that's even worse. The move occurred on March 28th, and a mere several days to weeks later, the Roman general in question was alerted to the rogue Celts. At least, I hope they're rogue. How did it happen? Well, the Helvetii hadn't disguised their troops, which suggested the culprits were somewhere near Geneva, Switzerland. This was on March 28th. 3 days later, on April 1st, Caesar was notified with the wishes of a happy slaughter. When questioned, Caesar said, "O scio qui sunt, interfeci sunt." Mystery solved. Now we can all go back to eating our Swiss cheese in peace. Number 14. Long division. As the saying goes, all of Gaul is divided into 3 parts, split amongst the Belgii, the Aquitani, and the Gauls. This is all well and good, but the question remains, why did I never learn division? I went to school for many years, and never learned how to evenly divide one region into 3 parts. Even when I went to voice acting college, I never learned division. This is especially curious, considering a bunch of savage tribes in Europe 2 millennia ago were able to adequately distribute themselves throughout Western Europe. Even with natural barriers like the Rhine River and the Ural Mountains, such pristine mathematical prowess would have been impossible from barbarians. It seems as though the barbarians' mathematical capabilities surpassed those of modern thinkers like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Stephen Hawking. This makes us ask, did the barbarians separate themselves, or did aliens help? After all, mathematical calculations of such complexity must only have been possible from an extraterrestrial's navigation supercomputer. Of course, I'm not saying this theory is true, but it certainly seems to be the only explanation for the barbarians being so good at math. Number 13. I never learned how to count either. Number 8. Orgetorix's plan. Orgetorix was a high-ranking Helvetian of extreme wealth. He held the power over his people, and, due to his ability to give arousing speeches, they would do as he said. Orgetorix became convinced the Helvetii did not possess enough land for their numbers, and thus led his people in a war against the surrounding tribes. Unbeknownst to the rest of the Helvetii, who were spending 2 years growing grass to eat and taming cattle, Orgetorix secretly met with Casticus of the Sequani and Dumnorix of the Adu, powerful men from the surrounding tribes. In private, the 3 agreed to cooperatively take over Gaul and split it into 3 parts, probably once again using an alien supercomputer for the number crunching. This agreement was a betrayal against the Helvetii people. After all, it is pretty scary to wonder if those in power are actually who they say they are. Do politicians have stakes in companies that harm us all? Is the government hiding something sinister in the Federal Reserve? Is Donald Trump actually a lizard? Are the pyramids even real? If we consider the story of Orgetorix, probably not. Number 7. Scorched Earth Policy. When the Helvetii marched towards Rome, they wanted to make sure no one would turn back. Therefore, they enacted a scorched earth policy, wherein they burned down their own villages as well as their own crop fields. This was a risky move for a number of reasons. First of all, the Helvetii had no way of retreating if their conquest went awry. Second of all, they did not adequately research the environmental impact of such fires, and they likely contributed to global warming. Finally, the Helvetii did not make sure the fires didn't accidentally summon a demonic entity such as Lucifer himself. Such a tactic is needlessly risky, especially considering they didn't bring their fire extinguishers with them. Number 6. The Suebi. Among the tribes of Germany, there is a warrior clan known as the Suebi. These people live in a strict society with very rigid social roles. As a whole, they shun private property. They feed off of communal cattle, shared by farmers throughout rotating farmers. The soldiers serve in the military for a year, then retire for another year, only to repeat the process. They love the outdoors and bathe in rivers. Men are not allowed to drink wine because it makes them less virile. The cavalry of the Suebi don't even use saddles, and on top of that, they never wear clothes. Talk about chafing. But skin irritation is only the second scariest thing about this tribe. From their description, they sound eerily communist. Is it possible Karl Marx is immortal and helped instill this German tribe with liberal propaganda? Or maybe, in a former life, Joseph Stalin lived as a naked, tree-hugging German hippie. And if the German people were once communist, who's to say they aren't still communist today? Number 5. British invasion. If you ask most people, the British invasion was a cultural movement during the mid-1900s, during which successful British rock bands like the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, and Led Zeppelin became prominent in America. However, 1st century BC Roman soldiers would probably think of something else. After battling various tribes in Germany, Caesar turned his sights towards the island nation. The Britons had been supplying the Gauls with troops and other weapons, hindering Caesar's previous conquests. In the late summer, Caesar and his men set out from France in hopes of learning more about the mysterious land and conquering more peoples. When Caesar's forces reached Dover, things went south. Not actually south though, because Caesar's forces were pushing north. The first thing to go awry was that the Roman ships were too large to anchor near the shoreline and instead set up further away. The soldiers, who were carrying many ounces of armor, began to drown as they attempted to swim inland. The Roman forces also had no clue as to the terrain of the area and were easily bested by the natives. The troops were not even remotely effective until the 10th Legion Aqualifer disembarked from his ship. Very soon, the Romans prevailed as victors. However, it is scary to imagine being a Roman soldier, slowly drowning under the weight of several ounces of armor on foreign soil. Even scarier is imagining being Caesar, who has to deal with all of this from far away. Number 4. Horsey go bye-bye. When Caesar led conquests into Germany, he fought many coalitions of various barbarian tribes. In particular, one battle saw a completely unprecedented military tactic used to frightening effectiveness. 800 cavalry dismounted their horses and proceeded to approach Roman horses on foot. Once within range, they killed the Roman horses themselves. This is especially frightening to animal lovers who do not want to see innocent horse blood spilt like chocolate milk. Don't bring this up around your neighborhood horse girl unless you want to make her sad. Number 3. Druids. In Book 6 of De Bello Gallico, Caesar pauses his narrative to explain the cultural trends of Gaul. He starts off talking about the indebted servant class called the plebeians. However, crippling debt is not the scariest part of this account. Caesar then talks about the Druids, religious authorities with extreme power in Gallic societies. They single-handedly controlled the justice system of Gallic society, a breach of Rousseau's separation of powers that they should have noticed. The Druids have such a hold on Gaul that superstition, such as human sacrifice and forwarding chain emails, were commonplace. Going back to the human sacrifice, Druids were often said to kill humans to appease their pagan gods. Some accounts say the Druids would pack men into giant wicker statues and burn it, with the humans inside, who were also burning, just like the wicker statue which was burning, with people in it, who were also burning, inside the wicker statue. Sure, the thought of being barbecued inside a giant wooden icon is eerie, but even worse is the realization this practice gave us Nicolas Cage's most iconic performance. Number 2. Orgetorix's Suicide. Orgetorix lives on in classical history as one of Caesar's most infamous foes. However, he did not die gloriously on the battlefield for his homeland. Instead, he was found dead under mysterious circumstances. Due to the fact he was standing trial for conspiring against his fellow Helvetii, many assumed he committed suicide. However, this story doesn't quite add up. If he did in fact die by his own hand, then why didn't he leave behind a suicide note? He was certainly rich enough to move away from the Helvetii and start a new life, so legal fees do not seem to be a factor in his death. This, of course, leaves us with many questions. In the time since his death, many have proposed theories about his death, ranging from the realistic to the almost certain. Was Orgetorix killed by a rogue group of angered Helvetii? Did Orgetorix's fellow co-conspirators decide to enact revenge for his ineptitude? Did Caesar send a Black Ops clandestine agent to take out his rival? Was he an enemy of the Clintons? Was Orgetorix the victim of one of Obama's drone strikes? Or were the aliens finally fed up with him using their navigation computers and decided to take action? These are just theories. At the end of the day, the only person who knows the answer is Orgetorix and Hillary Clinton. Before we move on to our number 1 spot, I'd just like to tell you that I'm Shills. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell icon so you can be part of our notification squad and see our videos as soon as they come out. A lot of work goes into these videos, and YouTube's ad system has been specifically targeting channels like ours that promote Greek and Latin studies. So, if you'd like to see these videos before everyone else while still supporting the channel, consider becoming a Faketron on our Patreon. For only $1 per month, you can get insider perks like early access to videos and Skype interviews with my aunt while still supporting the channel. Finally, if you'd like to see what I look like in real life, you can follow my personal Instagram account at Sam's Boss Baby Edits, where I post images of me with the Boss Baby. I post regularly, so be sure to check it out. Sine Mora. Let's get into our number 1 pick. Number 1. Italia in Europa Est. Europe is a northern hemisphere continent spanning from the Atlantic Ocean to roughly the Turkish Strait. Countries within Europe include England, France, Spain, Portugal, Ireland, and Germany. But one thing you probably didn't know is that Italy is located in Europe as well. It's scary to think that the Roman people lived on the same continent as barbarians such as the Helvetii and the Suebi. Also, it is easy to imagine Italy is not a part of Europe due to its vastly different climate and culture. As a result, many people swear they remember Italy being part of its own continent, continentally. This is an example of the phenomenon known as the Mandela effect, where people suspect former South American President Nelson Mandela has invented technologies that change people's memories. It is frightening to think that one man has the power to make us all believe Italy is in Europe. If he can do that, what's to stop him from tricking us all into liking Big Bang Theory? Spookily, the writers of Big Bang Theory are suspected to have developed their main character, Sheldon Cooper, to be a cog in the Europe conspiracy. The character's catchphrase is Bazinga, with Bazinga, of course, being a country in Europe near Romania, Serbia, Greece, and Turkey. Turkey is, however, found in Asia, a continent which is not Europe. Furthermore, turkeys are not indigenous to Europe and are instead found in North America, a continent colonized by Europeans. Europeans, of course, are from Europe. It seems as though all clues lead back to a conspiracy where Nelson Mandela is trying to convince us that Italy is actually in Europe, when it is actually in a different continent altogether. And that complex math involved in such mind control technology could only come from aliens. Stay woke.